Smart Hashtag 3 is the more affordable, trendy, all-electric coupe SUV you didn't know existed. Think small Mercedes EV crossover with a bit of extra youthful flair, and you're somewhere close to what this car is trying to be. It turns heads, feels quite sporty, and has a younger outlook on life. There's lots to like.
The days of feebly performing smart models that struggled outside the city limits are long behind us. The mid-range premium version of this Smart Hashtag 3 that we have here, the model many will choose, develops a useful 268 brake horsepower and 343 Newton meters of torque from its single rear-mounted e-motor, which propels the car with satisfying urgency. 62 miles an hour from rest dispatched in just 5.8 seconds en route to the 111 mile an hour top speed that all Hashtag 3s share. The 62 kilowatt hour battery, that's usable capacity, gives 283 miles of range, 10 miles more than the equivalent Smart Hashtag 1 thanks to sleeker aerodynamics. If you don't need quite that much, there's an entry-level Pro model with a smaller 47 kilowatt hour battery, but that's limited to 202 miles of range. As with the Hashtag 1, there's an all-wheel drive Brabus version at the top of the range, which gains an extra motor at the front axle, boosting power output to 422 brake horsepower. With the provided rocket start launch control system engaged, yes, it really is called that, 62 miles an hour with that top version flashes by in just 3.7 seconds, and the range figure is 258 miles. Whatever Hashtag 3 variant you choose, it'll immediately feel sportier than the equivalent Hashtag 1, thanks to the lower, more focused driving position, stiffer springs and dampers, and marginally wider tyres. The car also gets its own stability control tuning and steering configuration, which can be adjusted by the driver for weight. There are the same drive modes though, Eco, Comfort and Sport, plus an extra Brabus mode on the top version. If you happen to be familiar with the Smart Hashtag 1, you'd recognise this Hashtag 3 model because quite a bit of the design language is shared. Especially at the front with its rounded nose section, A-shaped lower grille and slimline LED headlights. But the Hashtag 3 sits on a much longer version of the SEA Geely platform that Smart currently builds its cars upon, shared with the Volvo EX30. That means a 4.4 metre body length that's around 130 millimetres longer than the Hashtag 1, and a sleek silhouette that's lower and wider too. Whether it's any kind of coupe is debatable. It sits no lower than a boxy Volkswagen ID.3 hatch, but there's certainly nothing that looks quite like it in its crowded segment. The interior is much different to that of the Hashtag 1, though you'll find yourself sitting much lower in the car than you do in one of those. There are sportier looking seats with neat little metal silver highlights and integrated headrests too, which prove to be decently supportive. As with this model's hatch stablemate, physical switchgear is scarce, with almost everything controlled through the freestanding 12.8-inch central touchscreen. As with this car's lesser stablemate, this monitor takes some getting used to, with a range of wacky graphics that, as with the Hashtag 1, include an animal mascot, though here for some reason it's a cheetah rather than a fox. The back seat feels more spacious than the swept back roofline suggests it might be for heads and for legs, but the bench doesn't slide like it does in a Hashtag 1 or recline, and you wouldn't want to have to cram in a centre-seated adult. All variants get this huge panoramic glass roof as standard, which has a heavy tint rather than a powered blind. Out back, the powered tailgate has no manual catch and gesture control with the two top trim levels. Now the hatch rises to reveal boot space that's a bit on the small side, rated at 370 litres, though that's actually 43 litres more than you get in a Hashtag 1. An adjustable height boot floor is provided, under which you'll need to store the charging cables. There's 1,160 litres available with the 60-40 split rear bench folded. Now in theory you don't have to fit everything in the rear because Smart provides a further frunk space beneath the bonnet. Unfortunately, it's lunchbox sized, just 15 litres, so we don't really know what you'd use it for. On this test, we've got pretty close to the claimed efficiency figure of 3.5 kilowatt hour. We've found that the range indicator has usually overstated the remaining battery mileage by about 25%, which is not unusual with an EV. The battery sizes we're quoting here are usable capacity ones, not the rather irrelevant total capacity kWh figures Smart likes to use. The larger lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese 62 kilowatt hour battery can DC public charge at up to 150 kilowatts, which means that a top up from 10 to 80% can be completed in half an hour. The base Pro model's 47 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery can only charge at up to 130 kilowatts. Again, 30 minutes is needed for a 10 to 80% DC charge. If you're AC charging from home, a 10 to 80% charge of the 62 kilowatt hour battery with a 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box takes 7.5 hours. This doesn't feel like a car from a brand that's been around for 3 decades. The pretty styling is fresh, so is the cabin design. In short, the hashtag 3 is a decent step forward from the hashtag 1, a mark of Smart's upward trajectory. Don't saddle the mark with preconceptions based on its past. This is really a new Chinese brand, and if it continues making cars like this, there's definitely a place for it.